Hey buddies, we're back. Well, not quite back. We're back from Boston, but we won't be back until Friday when we do our post-PAX show and trailer. But I wanted to give you a quick little vlog wrap up, my feelings of what happened this PAX, how it was, how I liked it, how we liked it. It was colder. Boston was way colder this time around. It made it a little bit more difficult to get around. Every day was a debate whether to walk or to get a cab or to get a shuttle. Felt a lot busier this year, but at the same time, a lot more sparse on the show floor. I think it's mostly perception. Maybe it was just what we were interested in. Way more indies, in my perception. Again, I didn't count, but it felt that way. But yeah, it felt a lot more crowded and a lot more, especially when it came to transportation. Again, that's probably due to do with how cold it was. So like taxi lines were huge leaving the convention, and shuttles were really hard to get on. So I think we got really lucky last year. I think people even told us that we got really lucky. Not only was it about 3 weeks later in the year, but it was also quite warm that weekend that we went to PAX East last year. That aside, it's PAX. It was fun. One thing that struck me as odd was that, like I said, it felt more sparse on the show floor. I think it was because there was no one company or game that seemed to be like setting the tone for the whole convention. In the past, like there's always been this one game that sort of, I would say, kind of gives it its theme. In the past, like I think our first one was Firefall, really dominated with a lot of their stuff. Borderlands at PAX East last year felt like the game that was setting the tone. This year, I was expecting BioShock Infinite to be a big thing, but it wasn't there at all, I'm pretty sure, in any capacity. The other big players like Last of Us was playable, but they had no, booth or setup. They had a booth, obviously, but they didn't have like a setup that looked like, it was representing the game. No big statue or posters or anything like that. Assassin's Creed was just another big, boring black box that you walked into to go see the new footage. They had photos that you could take, as we posted on our Facebook, where you posed as a pirate. That was a nice little touch. But again, there was no thing that attracted you, like that seemed like a centerpiece. Last year at PAX East, we had Lollipop Chainsaw. They had the big WB water tower, and they had Lollipop Chainsaw's school bus there. Borderlands was there with their gigantic statue and a gigantic backdrop with Borderlands stuff all splayed across it. The Assassin's Creed booth was also there, also a big monolithic black shiny thing. Not very exciting, but it really did dominate. I would say the most prominent thing this year was the gigantic Indie Mega booth, the PopCap Games Circus themed booth, which we will talk about on our post-PAX show. It was really neat. And the Magic the Gathering actually really stood out this year. They had this big, talk about it more later. I don't want to cannibalize the post-PAX show, but like they had this setup with a Kinect and you could throw fireballs. It was neat, and we'll show more of that on Friday. And between now and Friday, I'm going to start posting some footage. This is kind of out of characteristic for us, but there's some particular clips that I think need primetime coverage even before we do our post-PAX show. We'll talk about them again on the post-PAX show and give detail about what we thought of what these things were. Spoilers, one of them involves Mr. T, and we need to fill in these 3 days from now till Friday, so I'm going to start posting those, I think, over the next 2 days or so. So look out for that. Other things, the parties were cool. Again, a little bit more crowded this time around. I think Curse has become a bit more popular because of its reputation from last year and its free drinks. As I predicted, free drinks were plentiful because even though they gave 2 tickets, there were lots of people who were just passing them out after that. But again, I don't want to cannibalize that post-PAX show, so let's keep the details sparse on that. Met a lot of great people. It felt a little more tiring this time around. I feel like Boston really didn't give a good impression of it didn't give a true impression of itself the first time we went, because this year I feel like we got the true Boston experience. Dealt with some very rude Bostonites, some very thick Boston accents. Not that they go hand in hand, they don't always, but sometimes they do, and when they do, it really clicks as being one of the most shocking experiences for not only a Canadian, but a West Coast Canadian, where people are some of the most polite in the world, I'd say. And a stark contrast from PAX Seattle, where they are basically just Canadians as well. Seattle is very little difference from Vancouver. I guess that's just a Northwest laid-back attitude. But this year, it was a little bit exhausting dealing with some of the people outside of the convention, and some of the people inside the convention, not our fans, really. Although I will admit, and I want to be just open about this, our fan meetups are they're starting to feel a little bit like a chore, and it's not because of the fans. It's just because there's so many now, and I'm getting a little stressed out about how I've always made it clear to you that I thought our show was a grassroots, core audience, community feeling, and that I always wanted to touch base one-on-one with each particular person. I've been looking at the mic for this entire time for some reason. And I've always wanted to see, I'm really off. I'm still recovering. I'm a little bit tired. But I've always wanted that personal connection with people, and I feel like that's getting less and less possible, and it's kind of making me a little bit sad and stressed out. And, well, even though I just said that it wasn't any of the fault of our fans that met up, or our viewers, there are particular people, and I won't name names, but who really demand a lot of our time and attention. And it feels as though I don't get to spend as much time with those who are more respectful of our time, because the person who ends up getting to talk to me the most at these meetups is the people who... And look, saying this, some of our people might get self-conscious, like they feel like they spent too much time with me. If you feel that way, you probably aren't one of those people. I don't know how to say this in any other way. I just want to be open about it. I feel like there's times there were straight up times where people were interrupting a conversation with someone else, demanding things, like right now, sorts of like, I've got something for you to see while I'm having a conversation with someone else. This does not represent even, like, I would say it represents less than 2% of the entire people that showed up. But with the more people that show up every time, we get more of those types of people. And I don't know that it's completely those people's fault either. I don't fault them 100% either. Like, they're excited, they mean well. But, as I'm saying this, I'm starting to debate whether I should have or not. But I'm going to put it out there anyways, because I've always tried to be open with you guys and put my heart on my sleeve in this development process from as a tiny show to one that's getting a little bit more success slowly over the years. And it's just every year we're adding on, I would say, a good 20% more people showing up to these things. And while flattering, like I said, it's stressing me out, because I hate that there's this balance between popularity and connection and community. And it's just something that we keep having to work on. But going forward, I think that was one of the major epiphanies that came out of this PAX, was just like, we have to figure something out to like, or redefine what we consider to be a personal experience with our audience. But regardless, on the positive side, there were some really great people we met up with, and we'll talk about them when we do the post-PAX wrap-up, when we show all their faces, and we'll remember each one of their names. One of the hardest parts, I'd say, this time around was every year it gets harder to remember the username with the face. Even some of the more prominent usernames that I've known very well from the server, I meet them, they say their username, I'd be like, oh, so this, finally, is, Aceville, Mayor of Edge. And then I forgot him all week, and every time I met him, I was like, what was your name again? And he's like, Aceville. I'm like, the Mayor of Edge, Jesus, why can't I remember your face? And I'm usually quite good with faces. So there's that, and then there was finally the big PAX cosplay show that we did live. Way more awkward than last year. Logistical problems, kind of out the wazoo. One of the bigger things that was a problem was a big communication, I'd say, mix-up with Twitch about how we did not... I thought I'd made it clear to them that we didn't want to make it a contest. When we got to the booth on Sunday, we saw that they had a poster up that said all weekend, Sunday, 3 o'clock, cosplay contest. So at that point, we had to sort of finagle last minute a contest out of it, because it was either that or we made a lot of cosplayers who had shown up kind of angry about it before the show started, which wouldn't have been, a very good way, tone to start the show on. So I talked to our mods, and they were awesome to cobble together an online voting system for our community. that messed up because, like, as our mods posted in the Twitch chat room where to vote, their mods were banning the link, even though I talked about it on air. I'd said specifically that we needed that link, but whatever. There was that. I was getting stressed out about it because if I'm not in complete control, you know me, I get stressed out. Like, I am a control freak when it comes to production and polish, and when things aren't completely 100% polished. This is not, a facing of Twitch either. Like, they're amazing for having accommodated our logistics because they don't do these types of shows on their stage. We got lucky that it was a bigger stage this year around, so it was easier to get cosplayers up onto it. But they do their best with what they have, which was only really designed for guys sitting on a couch and talking to each other and doing gameplay commentary. So we made what we could out of it. I feel like we got really lucky last year with how smoothly it went, because this year we had quite a few more problems. The mic issue that started the things off. I feel like I need to get this out, guys. I'm sorry if it bores you, but like I need it for my sake. The mic issue. At the last minute, I told them everything was last minute because that's how it was. The show before us went up until the moment where we could start talking to them about how we were going to run our show. That's how little time there is at PAX. So when we went up and I said, I don't want to use that headset because I'll be tethered to that couch. I won't be able to move towards the cosplayers, point at things. Can I use the handheld mic? They said, okay. I could tell they weren't really enthusiastic on that idea, and there was probably multiple reasons for it. I didn't. They forgot to tell me that there was a button first to turn it on at the very top of the show. Kind of embarrassing. And then that button. Speaking of which, if you freaking wink at the thing, it turns off. Like, I had to keep my thumb on it the entire time, which I found out probably too late into the show as well. And then I was holding it because we didn't do sound checks. I was holding the mic too close to my mouth the entire time, so my audio was distorted. And you know how I am about audio quality and distortion, and they don't seem to have a dynamic compression system set up because, well, again, they were set up for those headsets instead of the handheld. I got my thing out about that. So that was that, and at least we had some great moments still within it. And the mods still did a great job of putting together a last-minute voting system, and we did what we could. We did our best, and we did get some great. I would say getting up on Johnny Cage's shoulder, at the very least, makes up for any of the difficulties we had. And I'll be posting that footage on our YouTube very soon, probably later on today. So look out for that as well. So that was PAX, and it was the most tiring one that we've had yet, and it's to many different factors, and I'm just going to I'm still can't wait for the next PAX, but every PAX you learn something, and I think we're going to become better at it every time that we go. And I'd say that the greatest challenge we face, like I said, is just the gaining popularity and the bigger turnout from our viewers. And it sounds, I know that there's going to be YouTube commenters in here who decide that this all sounds conceited. Fuck you. And this isn't condescension, nor is it conceited. It's just fact. And we are dealing with it as we go along. And it's a constant tug of war between that popularity and my desire to always have that community, small feel connection, grassroots. So that's it. We're back, and we'll be back for good. Oh, BioShock Infinite coming up this Saturday. I was going to do it right away as soon as, I was going to do it today. Fuck that. There's no way. We're so tired right now, and Becky's getting the last bits of the costume together. She would have had to just scramble, exhausted as she is, to get the last bit of the costume ready. I think that we probably bit off more than we could chew with the idea that we would be able to come back and cover BioShock Infinite right away. It's getting insanely good reviews. This is a really exciting year for video games. We've already got two major, three if you include Ni no Kunai, Tomb Raider and BioShock Infinite, contenders for Game of the Year, and it's just the beginning of the year. We still have Beyond, Two Souls, Watch Dogs coming out. Assassin's Creed 4, it's coming out this year. I'm forgetting some, whatever. There's just, and Last of Us, Jesus, and those are just the ones that are right on the top of our head right now. There's going to be more. This year's roster of Game of the Year Like your short list is going to be probably 10. And that's crazy. And I think that's a largely to do with how many were pushed back from last year. But it's with 2 new consoles coming out as well. What a year. And like PAX, I feel like this is just the thing that clues us into, you know, how big everything is that keeps moving around us and how we have to struggle to keep up. So thanks for watching, everybody, and see you soon. I love you guys.